everyone. Today we are doing something kind of different, kind of new. I was contacted by Artistro to try out some of their paint pens, and I said yes because I was intrigued, because apparently when you use these on an item, if it is an oven-safe item, you can bake them and it helps to make them waterproof. So on top of that, you know, it says it can go on glass, ceramic, porcelain, wood, canvas, metal, plastic, stone, paper, and more. So we have a few things today. So we've got this little wooden box. We're going to see how it does on wood. We've got this cute little cup here. We're going to try and draw on and then bake it. We've got some rocks here that we're going to test it on. We also have a little canvas bag. They also sent this adorable little tote bag, canvas tote bag that has their name on it. So I thought it'd be kind of fun if we drew some designs on it, maybe colored it in a little bit because we're colorists and we can't help it. Oh, and I also have some glass to test it on. I have this little jar that I keep my pencil shavings in, and the top of this is plastic, so we can try it on glass and plastic at the same time. So let's go ahead and take a look at them. Okay, so first impressions, obviously we've got, put that to the side, we're gonna use it to open it. It comes in this cardboard box here, tape on the top and the bottom, gives you instructions on how to prime your markers, well, pens, I suppose, non-toxic, acid-free, and then it gives the baking instructions on the side as well. I have to say, I really love the design, and these ones are extra fine tip too. I know they have a few different sizes, but we have the extra fine tip, which is actually going to be really good for some of our rocks and stuff. So let's go ahead and get this open. I was waiting to do it with you all, and I have been anxiously waiting to see what kind of tips they are, what they look like. Are they more felt? Do they have a more plastic nib? All right, let's take a look. All right, first impressions with the box. It's not in color order. That drives me a little crazy, but that's just my own issues. Looks like we have a couple extra white and a couple extra black, which is nice because this is the most commonly used. I wonder, is this the gold? Let's see, do they have color names on them? Let's take a look, shall we? Okay, so I'm looking bottom, top. It doesn't look like they have color names on them, but it does say, it tells you the size, so extra fine point, shake well, prime with tip till the ink begins to flow. It says Artistro on here, multi-surface, quick dry. Okay, so no names on them, but you can go buy marker caps, and you can always do a swatch if you want. It looks like we've got some papers in here as well. Let's move the knife here and let's get these out. Okay, so they all say water-based on the bottom, which is interesting, the fact that they're water-based and yet once we bake them, it will be waterproof to a certain degree. Okay, let's get in here and look at, what are these papers we got in here? Let's see, paint pen instructions. Okay, well that's nice to have, so there's no confusion on how to do it. Okay, and this is just, thank you for choosing Artistro, instruction booklet. Oh, and then it lets you know kind of what other things they have available. Very cool. And I'll have the website link for this in the description below if you want to find it. All right, so let's grab a blue one because blue is my favorite color. And let's take the cap off and take an extra look at this. Okay, I've just got this extra little piece of paper here. All right, so like I said on the other one, there doesn't seem to be any name on it. Let's go ahead and shake it up first. Okay, pop the cap off. Okay, so it has a nib. Let's move this out of the way. It has a nib really similar to those Arteza markers that we looked at a couple weeks ago. Looks like a plastic nib, so I feel like that's a little bit different than the Posca ones. The newer Posca ones have a metal nib and the older ones have a felt nib, so it doesn't have the plastic one. All right, so let's go ahead and prime this. Just hold it down, maybe? Tapped it a couple times. Let's just try holding it down. Ah, there we go. Here it comes. Okay. Wow, that flows really fast. It's not quite as fine tip as I expected it to because there's so much that comes out. Okay. If you use a little bit lighter pressure, the lines aren't quite as thick. Let's see. Did that soak through? I know that was an issue. In fact, that's what this blue mark is from the last one. Oh. Flipped it upside down. Okay, it didn't soak through. Let's grab another color real quick. Let's grab the red. Okay, give it a quick shake. Okay. Wonder if it'll go faster if I tap it. Nope, we're better off just holding it till it comes out. There we go. Okay, so it soaks into the paper quite a bit. But I might use these like on top of a surface. Let's try the white. Ooh, look at that though. That's a little bit. Okay, so be aware, it could be a little leaky. So just, yeah. There's a little bit of extra paint that came out the side there. So something to be aware of so you don't, so it doesn't leak all over you. But it hasn't like leaked on me or the paper. It didn't really fall all the way down, so we'll see. Let's actually prime a white real quick. And before we move on to the objects, let's try see how it does on top of colored pencil. Okay, so we're gonna shake it. This is something that I kind of pre-colored. Didn't spend too much time on. Honestly, I don't even remember what pencils I used on it, but this is just a Johanna Basfer page. I wanted to see how it does on top of pencil, as it really just soaks into this plain paper. I'm just priming it up here real quick. All right, let's see how this does. Okay, so it does some nice dots here. Try some lines. Okay. It didn't soak through, it didn't really spread, and it looks like it's drying pretty white. So far so good. All right, now that we've tested on a little bit of colored pencil, let's move on to some of these items. Let's see, what do we want to do first? I have so many things to test this on. Okay, let's go ahead and test it on glass, and let's see, let's do, you know what, let's just start with some white since it's already primed. We'll start with some white and then we'll save the color ones for the other items. Okay, so we're just gonna do a simple little flower here. It's not running or anything, so that's good. My hands are a little wiggly today, but that's okay. It's not really shrinking up once it's on the glass, so that's good. It's literally just like a quick, simple flower. All right. Let's do a leaf. Not too shabby. We'll do something nicer on the rocks. We're just we're just testing some things out at the moment. Seeing how it takes, how quick it dries. Now it still looks pretty wet. It does say quick drying, but I'm not quite sure what that means in terms of how quick. So while we wait for this side to dry, because I can see it's still pretty glossy, I don't want to smear it, so let's go ahead and try the top. Okay, let's do a blue this time. Okay, actually, let's start with the yellow. We'll do the middle of the flower first. Okay, let's do it over in this corner. Now this is on the plastic. Okay, so far so good. Now the question is, when I put these two colors next to each other, are they going to bleed into one another? Do we need to wait in between colors? I don't know. I will say the colors are super vibrant. They don't seem to be bleeding into one another, so that's nice. Okay. They're gliding across really nice. The caps are pretty tight to put on, but that's a good thing too with paint markers because that means they're not going to dry out. Okay, let's try some light blue inside. Okay, so you put them right next to each other. They will indeed bleed. There's a lot of paint coming out of here, so definitely wait in between to make sure that it's dry. Okay. Let's try this dark green here. Okay. I'll be curious to see how it works with canvas, just because it absorbs it a little bit more. Okay, so as far as onto plastic, it seems to work really well, but it clearly needs to dry in between colors. I mean, if you're doing just a single color, that's fine. Let's take a look at the side here, which is where we did it on glass. So it's interesting. Technically, it is dry, but I can feel it's got a little bit of a tacky feeling still. So as far as quick drying on glass, I wouldn't necessarily consider this like a super quick dry. Let's see, is it picking up my fingerprint? A little bit. So definitely give it some time to dry in between colors. I mean, it adheres to it really well, and I'll be curious to see kind of, you know, how it is over time. But yeah, definitely wait in between colors. I wonder if you could use like your heat gun. We might try that on the rocks. All right, let's move on to our next item. Okay, so this is the little cup. I actually got this cup at Hobby Lobby. This is the one that we're gonna go ahead and bake. Now, I'm probably just gonna use the white on it because I like the idea of just the black and the white. We're gonna try and put some designs on here. I'm gonna take my time, try not to be all wiggly. And then what we're gonna do is while we're testing the other items, we're gonna go ahead and let this bake. And then at the end of the video, we'll bring it back and we'll kind of see how well it's adhered on, okay? So let's go ahead and try with our white, which we know is already primed. Okay, so now, you know, it's a curved side, so it's gonna take a little bit to figure it out. Let's go ahead and start with the spout, yeah? So you notice there were a couple times when I did this where I get this little bit of paint spray, and a lot of that has to do with the angle that I hold that up, because the very tip of the plastic nib, it's not like solid. There's like little, kind of makes it a little bit flexible. So occasionally you will get these little flicks depending on kind of how you turn your marker or paint pen. So one of the things that I'm noticing is I'm wondering if the ability to quick dry has a lot to do with the surface, because I will say it's drying a lot faster on here than it did on the glass, although I did smear it just a tiny bit there, but we'll cover that up with an extra little dot. But yeah, it does seem to be drying faster on here than it did on the glass. So although this can be washed, we're gonna bake it here in a second, although this can be washed, and it is non-toxic, they do say not to use it directly on food. So I don't plan on using this to pour actual food, liquid beverages and everything. I'm gonna keep pencils and such and little bits and bobs of this in the office. So I wouldn't put this anything like directly on a plate, but if you put it on just the outside, then you could still use this as a drinking glass just as long as, you know, no actual food or your mouth gets on it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go get this in the oven and get it baking, and I will bring it back when it is all done. Okay, so I've got the little canvas bags that I picked up. But I actually think that rather than these, I want to go and use. They're both pretty much the same material. I got these little ones at Hobby Lobby, but like I said, this is the one the Artistro sent. I am curious though. I think what we'll do, we're going to move this up real quick. Since these little canvas bags are close to the same, we are just going to test it just real quick because I'm curious if it soaks through. So let's grab a nice dark color real quick. Okay, because we could just put a piece of paper behind it, which we might do anyway, but let's just go ahead and get a leaf here. Okay, did that soak through? So like a tiny bit, but not enough that it soaks all the way through. So I think just a normal piece of paper would be fine behind it to prevent any kind of bleed through. So this is just a standard little piece of paper. You could use something thicker if you want, but I don't know that it needs anything more. So I'm gonna put this in here like so. Okay, just tuck it on in behind it. And I think this will be the same kind of when you use any kind of cloth. All right, we got it behind the Artistro name here. Bigger folded just a bit, there we go. All right, and let's see about coloring in the Artistro name and kind of adding to it, yeah? Let's start with a red. So what I'm looking for is bleed through across the canvas. Not really seeing any. I don't know how easy it would be to make a smooth line. We're gonna try when we draw on some more designs, but you know, it's a pretty rough surface. As far as the pen's ability to, you know, adhere to the surface, it seems like it's pretty good. I would definitely use it at an angle, because up and down, it's catching on the edge of the nib too much. Now, I don't have the bigger one, so I don't know kind of how the larger Posca pens have a different nib. I don't know if the larger Artistro ones would have a different nib. But we're gonna fill this in and see how it does. I want to keep the paint flowing, so I'm gonna try and prime it every now and then. I think in the case of these letters, a wider nib would probably work out well. But I mean, honestly, if I was only going to buy one set, I'd always end up with the fine tip anyway, because I'm always going to be more likely to do fine tip details than I am larger. So if you can only choose one, I think I'd still choose the fine tip. As far as drying capability, it's definitely still damp. And we've only been doing this for a couple minutes, so it'll take a little bit longer. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and add our own little details and see what kind of fun we can have with this. Okay, I will say it's bleeding a little bit, but I think that has more to do with the fabric than it does the pens, just because it's so rough. We may try this on some regular fabric as well. Okay, I was gonna do more, but I'll be honest, I don't think that canvas is the material for these, because with the way the plastic tips are, it catches on the fabric like a lot, and then you get a lot of this spray back. So let's try and add a little bit of color, see what happens. It's actually interesting. On the inside part where little black flecks were, when I'm using the marker, it's actually covering it up a little bit. So that's kind of cool. I also might re-outline some of the black lines for some of these darker colors. I'm actually gonna try using both greens and see how that works. Getting a tiny bit of a blend. Let's add the darker green on top of it again while it's still wet. I like that, that's not too bad. Let's do it again with this one. It's actually kind of cool that we're able to get a little bit of a blend on canvas with the paint markers, so that's neat. I wonder if we could use a little bit of white to blend this. Ooh, or actually maybe this, no, not that. Let's try white. Here we go. Not too bad. I liked that I was able to blend the colors on them. That was kind of fun. That was unexpected. I was not expecting able to do that. But the canvas, like I said, it's a little bit rough for it. So you definitely get a little flex. So take your time and practice with it and kind of find out what works for you. All right, let's try our next surface. All right, so this is just a little Hobby Lobby unfinished wood box. The wood quality is probably not the fanciest, so we may get some bleed through on the grain. But we'll see. Let's just start adding stuff and see what happens. Okay, so first impression, it's actually not really bleeding like I thought it might, so that's good. That's interesting how some colors work differently with the wood than others do. Like this one, you can see the wood grain so much more. I'm wondering if it has to do with how dark of a purple it is. My lopsided rainbow. It's beautimous. Okay, so for our next one, we are going to do this rock. It's a pretty glossy rock. It's obviously like a polished treated rock. So we'll see how well the paint markers adhere to it. Let's start having some fun with this. Okay, that purple's a little too dark. We need light colors on this black rock. Go figure. We'll say there's a tiny bit of like, you know how sometimes if it's too smooth, there's a little bit of shrinkage in the paint. We're getting a little bit of that. But maybe if I'd chosen like a rougher rock. Ooh, that one's real nice. Good, that blue. Okay, so that's not too bad. Getting a little bit of shine from the lights here, but yeah, that's kind of cute. Let's try it on a lighter rock real quick. Get some of our darker colors. I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit thin. Like you see how it's just creating these kind of thinner lines? Let's zoom in a little bit. And I feel like if the rocks were any rougher, the plastic nib would catch on it too much, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. So far, rocks aren't a huge win for me. Okay, so it's come out of the oven now. It's a little tad warm still. But so far, so good. Like, I don't feel very much texture on it. I want to test to see if it can be scraped away. So I'm going to do it in like, maybe I'll do it with one of these dots. So I like it. I don't want to ruin it. Okay, let's see if we can scrape away to one of these dots. Barely at all. Okay, I also got a wet paper towel here and we're going to kind of scrub this. Okay, so that's not coming off. That's good. So, yeah. That came out pretty well. Now, I would hand wash this. I wouldn't run it through the dishwasher. But I'm really pleased with that. So let's get everything that we kind of worked on today. So to recap, we did glass. It did okay on glass. It took a little bit longer to dry than I liked. Plastic, It still went okay on plastic, but you definitely need to have it dry completely in between colors. We did the wood box. Now, I realized I wasn't recording and I tried to do a, okay, if anybody needs to hear this today, you are amazing. But here's the thing is I didn't realize the wood quality was worse up top and it actually ended up bleeding a lot. But the down part down here, the lower part seemed to do pretty good. So wood, it does okay. Just, watch your quality of wood. Obviously we did on top of pencil. It did okay on pencil. It wasn't as bright white as I would like. It was still a little bit see-through, but it did okay. I think I would still opt for using either Posca or my Arteza paint pens for highlights. We have the rocks. I am on the fence about the rocks because here's the thing. It's got the little plastic nibs, but they catch on whatever little crevice and then flick paint. And it didn't seem to, I don't know, like the paint kind of shrunk up a little bit. Like this was almost too glossy for it, which is kind of the same effect that we had on the glass. So rocks, I'm not entirely sold. The canvas bag worked. I was pleased that I could kind of blend on the canvas bag and they worked well. In fact, this was the paper that was in it. As you can see, it did bleed through a little bit. But it was just a simple piece of paper behind the canvas. So just a simple piece of paper behind it should work, but I'm pleased with this. I'm pleased with this. I don't know that I would wash it. I think if you do this, you want to on fabric. I don't know. Is it washable? I don't think it's washable. Yeah, but if you do this, I would just do it on fabric you don't plan on washing all too often. So the winner of all of these crafts, though, was definitely the cup. This is easily my favorite. I think it turned out really, really well. So as far as these pens go, I think the winning factor in it is, well, I don't know if this is a real word, the bakeability of it. So I think there might be more, what's the word? Not accurate, but I think there are other paint pens out there that might do a better job on things like rocks and other really kind of glossy surfaces. But if you're wanting to do something like this where it becomes water resistant and you can bake it, I highly, highly recommend. I think that is the number one winning factor for them. So if a craft like this appeals to you, then the Artistro paint pens are the way to go. And honestly, this was really fun. There's a good chance I'm going to be doing this again in the future because seriously, how adorable is that? But yeah, so those were the Artistro paint pens. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you've used them before. If you had a favorite activity we did today or something, maybe an idea to try this on something else in the future. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.